what is the Buddhist secret of no self? And how could letting go of your very self be the key to ending suffering and anxiety? Part 1. It sounds radical, even terrifying. But first, let's be honest about the experience of having a self. It can feel like a full-time, high-stress job that you can never quit. From the moment you wake up, the management of me begins. We worry. What do they think of me? We judge. I'm not smart enough, successful enough, good enough. We defend our opinions. We polish our image. We live with a constant, low-grade fear that this fragile construction of me might be criticized, rejected, or might fail. Social anxiety, the fear of public speaking, the sting of an insult, the exhaustion of the inner critic, all of this suffering is happening to a self. But what if this self we spend our entire lives defending, promoting, and worrying about isn't actually real in the way we think it is? What if it's the primary source of our anxiety, not the victim of it? The Buddha's most profound and liberating teaching, the doctrine of no self, offers a way to gracefully resign from this stressful job. In this series, we will explore this revolutionary idea, not as a dry philosophy, but as a practical path to finding the deep and unshakable peace that lies on the other side of me. To understand this path, we first have to see how the self creates suffering. The problem isn't that our self is flawed. The problem is the belief that we have a fixed, solid, separate self to begin with. In Buddhism, this mistaken belief is called Sakkaya Ditthi, or personality view. It's the unquestioned assumption that there is a permanent I at the center of our experience. A useful metaphor is to think of this self as a castle of identity. From a young age, we start building this castle. The walls are our beliefs and opinions. The towers are our achievements and possessions. The flag flying on top is our reputation and social media profile. Once this castle is built, our life's work becomes defending it. A compliment feels like a reinforcement to the walls. An insult is a cannonball attack. A failure is a crack in the foundation. We live in a constant state of anxiety because this precious castle is under perpetual threat from the unavoidable changes and challenges of life. The Buddha's insight was this: the suffering is not the cannonball. The suffering is the stress of having a castle to defend in the first place. From this, we can deduce that our anxiety and suffering are the direct result of our identification with this constructed self. We take things personally because we believe there is a person there to be attacked. We fear the future because we are afraid of what might happen to this person. We cling to the past because our memories are the building blocks of this person's story. The entire drama of our lives, with all its turmoil, revolves around this fictional main character. The teaching of no self is not a command to destroy the castle. It is the whisper of a secret. The castle door isn't locked. You are not the castle. You are the awareness that is watching the entire drama unfold. You can, at any moment, walk out into the open field of reality. So, how do we begin to experience this freedom in our own lives? We start by creating a small, intentional space between our awareness and our experiences. This leads to our first practice, the practice of depersonalizing experience. It's a simple but powerful shift in language and perception. The next time a strong emotion like anxiety arises, notice your habitual thought, "I am anxious." In this statement, You have completely fused your identity with the feeling. Now, try to reframe it. Gently and silently, say to yourself, there is a feeling of anxiety present. Can you feel the difference? I am anxious is a statement of identity. There is anxiety is a statement of observation. This simple change creates a subtle but profound space. It takes the I out of the equation. You are no longer the feeling. You are the one who is aware of the feeling. You are beginning to walk out of the castle. Practice this with all your experiences. There is a sound of anger in my voice. There is a sensation of sadness in my chest. This is the first step to untangling yourself from the fiction. In summary, we have identified the stressful, full-time job of being a self as the root cause of our anxiety. We see that our suffering comes from defending a fragile, constructed identity, a castle of self. The Buddha's radical secret is that this self is not as solid as it seems, and the first step to freedom is to practice creating a space between our awareness and our experience. But this naturally leads to a deep and perhaps frightening question. If I am not this self, this collection of thoughts, feelings, and stories, then what am I? To answer this, we must become spiritual archaeologists and carefully examine the very building blocks of our experience. And that is the journey we will take in part 2. How does it feel to reframe I am anxious to there is a feeling of anxiety here? Share your experience in the comments below. If you're ready to explore this liberating path, please like this video and subscribe to Buddhism Wisdom, Spirituality. Part 2. In our last part, we introduced the Buddha's most radical teaching, that our deep-seated anxiety and suffering arise from our mistaken belief in a solid separate self. We took the first step on a path of liberation by practicing the depersonalization of our experience. But this deconstruction naturally opens up a profound and essential question. If I am not this self that I've always believed myself to be, then what am I? To answer this, the Buddha didn't offer another identity to cling to. Instead, he offered a set of tools for a direct personal investigation into the nature of our own reality. This investigation centers on what are known as the 5 skandhas. The word skandha in Sanskrit, or khandha in Pali, literally means heap, bundle, or aggregate. The Buddha taught that what we call a person is, in fact, a temporary coming together of 5 distinct heaps or processes of experience. There is no self to be found outside of or behind these 5. They are the complete list of ingredients. The first is form, rupa. This is the entire physical world, including our own body. It's everything we can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. The second is feeling, vedana. This is the raw data of sensation. Every experience we have can be categorized as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. This is the simple, immediate tone of an experience before we add a story to it. The third is perception, sanya. This is the mind's labeling function. It's the part that recognizes, identifies, and puts concepts onto raw experience. It sees a shape and says, chair. It feels a sensation and says, pain. The fourth is mental formations, sankhara. This is the largest and most complex category. It includes all of our thoughts, moods, habits, opinions, biases, and volitional intentions. Our inner critic lives here. Our joy lives here. Our entire personality structure is found in this heap. And the fifth is consciousness, vijnana. This is the basic faculty of knowing or awareness itself. It's the light that illuminates the other four. It's the consciousness of seeing, the consciousness of feeling, the consciousness of thinking. The Buddha's instruction was to investigate these 5 heaps one by one with the focused curiosity of a scientist and to ask a simple question of each. Is this me? Is this mine? Is this myself? A classic metaphor for this process is that of peeling an onion. You are looking for the core of the onion, the essential onionness. You peel back the outer layer, form, but that's not the core. You peel back the next layer, feeling, then perception, and so on. You go through all the layers, but when you are finished, you are left with nothing but a pile of layers. There is no central core to be found. The onion was nothing more than the temporary collection of its layers. In the same way, the Buddha argued, if you investigate your own experience, you will come to the same conclusion. Are you your body? Your body is constantly changing. It gets sick. It ages, and you cannot ultimately control it. It cannot be a permanent self. Are you your feelings? Feelings are like the weather, fleeting and unreliable. Are you your thoughts? Your thoughts are a chaotic, contradictory stream. You are not your thoughts. After a thorough investigation, we find that what we call a self is just a convenient label we apply to the ever-changing flow of these 5 processes. It's a verb, not a noun. A crucial misconception must be addressed here. Does no self mean that you don't exist? That life is a meaningless illusion? This is the most common fear, and it is a complete misunderstanding. The teaching of no self is not nihilism. It does not mean that nothing exists. It means that nothing exists independently and permanently. You don't exist as a separate isolated island. You exist as a dynamic, interconnected process, like a river. A river is a real thing, but you can never step in the same river twice. It is a constantly changing pattern of causes and conditions. To realize no self is to stop identifying as a static, isolated rock, and to realize you are the dynamic, flowing river of life itself. So, how do we bring this profound, analytical understanding into our direct experience? We can practice a deconstructive meditation. I invite you to try this for just a few minutes. Find a comfortable seat. Close your eyes. First, bring your awareness to the physical sensations in your body. Form. Notice the feeling of your breath, the contact with the chair. Ask yourself gently, am I these sensations, or am I the awareness that knows these sensations? Now, notice the general feeling tone in your experience. Feeling. Is it pleasant, unpleasant, neutral? Ask yourself, am I this fleeting feeling, or am I the awareness that knows this feeling? Listen to the thoughts that are passing through your mind, mental formations. Notice them as sounds or images. Ask yourself, am I these thoughts? Or am I the awareness that watches these thoughts come and go? Finally, rest in that awareness itself, consciousness. Can you find anyone in that awareness? Is there a central me looking out? Or is there just seeing, hearing, feeling, thinking? Just the unfolding process of experience. Don't strain for an answer. Let the questions themselves soften your rigid sense of self. Through this deep investigation, the Buddhist path offers a stunning conclusion. When we search for a solid self, we cannot find one. What we find instead is a dynamic and brilliant dance of 5 interconnected processes. We are not a noun. We are a verb. We are not a thing. We are an event. This might feel disorienting at first, like the ground has been pulled out from under you. But this deconstruction is the necessary step before the great liberation. How does this profound insight actually translate into a life with less anxiety and less suffering? What does it feel like to live, love, and work from this spacious, selfless perspective? That is the final and most inspiring part of our journey. What did you notice during the deconstructive meditation? Share your experience in the comments. If this investigation is opening up a new way of seeing for you, please like this video and subscribe to Buddhism Wisdom, Spirituality. Part 3. Welcome back. In our journey into the secret of no self, we began by identifying the stressful, anxious job of being a self as the root of our suffering. Then, in Part 2, we took a courageous step into the unknown. We deconstructed that self, investigating it through the lens of the 5 skandhas, and discovered that there is no solid, permanent core to be found. We are not a thing, but a process. This can feel like a philosophical earthquake. But now, we arrive at the most important part of our exploration, rebuilding on this new, more spacious ground. How does the direct realization of no self actually lead to the end of anxiety and suffering in our real, messy, everyday lives? When our rigid identification with a separate self begins to soften, 2 profound qualities of mind naturally begin to shine forth. The first is equanimity, upekkha. Equanimity is a deep, unshakable balance of mind. It's a spaciousness that allows the inevitable ups and downs of life to occur without throwing you off your center. When you no longer believe there is a solid me at the center of your experience to be protected and defended, you stop taking everything so personally. The praise of others doesn't inflate you, and the criticism of others doesn't devastate you. They are simply seen as passing weather patterns. The second quality is compassion, karuna. When you see through the illusion of your own separate self, you simultaneously see through the illusion of the separateness of others. You realize that other people are also a collection of these 5 processes, caught in the same conditioned habits and driven by the same fundamental wish to be happy and to avoid suffering. The artificial barrier between me and you dissolves, and what remains is a deep sense of kinship. The suffering of another is no longer seen as their problem. It is felt as a shared experience, and the heart's natural response is the wish to help. Now we can directly connect this to ending suffering and anxiety, using our central metaphor from Part 1. Living as a self is like being a single, vulnerable cloud, constantly worried about its shape, its size, and the threat of other clouds. Realizing no self is the moment you discover you are not the cloud. You are the vast, open sky. How does being the sky end anxiety? Social anxiety diminishes because the sky is not worried about what the clouds think of it. The fear of failure lessens because a cloud of failure can pass through the sky without staining it. The sky remains open and clear. Anger and resentment soften because you see that the insult was just one cloud bumping into another. It wasn't a personal attack on the sky, and the deepest existential anxiety, the fear of death, loses its ultimate sting. The death of a cloud is not a terrifying event for the sky. It is a natural dissolution, a return to the boundless potential from which new clouds will form. This profound shift is not an overnight event, but a gradual unfolding that is supported by practice. Here are 2 final practices to help you live from this spacious, selfless view. The first is the "Who is suffering?" inquiry. The next time you feel a strong wave of emotional pain, anxiety, hurt, sadness, and you've created a little space by noting there is anxiety here, take it one step further. Gently and with genuine curiosity, ask your mind, who is it that is suffering right now? Who is the one that was hurt? Look for the entity that is the victim of this feeling. Can you find a solid, continuous me that is being harmed? Or do you just find more sensations, more thoughts? Let the question itself relax the clenched fist of the ego. It points you back to the awareness that is simply holding the experience, an awareness that is itself not suffering. The second practice is the "just like me" compassion practice. When you are interacting with someone, especially a person you find difficult, take a quiet moment to reflect. Just like me, this person is a bundle of constantly changing processes. Just like me, they are often caught in the stories their mind tells them. Just like me, they are doing their best to find happiness and avoid pain. This simple reflection is incredibly powerful. It dissolves the wall of otherness and allows you to see the shared humanity, the shared Buddha nature, behind their challenging personality. It is the direct cultivation of compassion. And so, we complete our journey into the Buddha's most liberating secret. We began by identifying the stressful, full-time job of being a self as the root of our suffering. We then courageously deconstructed the self, peeling back its layers to find not a solid core, but a dynamic, brilliant process. And finally, we have seen that realizing this truth is not a descent into nothingness, but an ascent into a boundless freedom, equanimity, and compassion. The ultimate teaching of no self is this: your freedom is not found in becoming a better, stronger, or more perfect version of yourself. The greatest freedom, the deepest peace, is the profound relief of realizing that you don't have to be anyone at all. In letting go of the exhausting project of the self, you don't discover a void. You discover the boundless, open-hearted awareness that is your true home, an awareness that has been here all along, patiently waiting for you to notice. What was the most challenging or liberating part of this teaching for you? Please share your experience in the comments below. If this journey has helped you find a little more space in your own mind, please press the like button and subscribe to Buddhism Wisdom, Spirituality. Thank you for your courageous inquiry. May you be free.